Hello, this is Ava from Soul GPS. Welcome to my channel. Today, this episode is going to be the first one in a series of several that is going to be dealing with words and specifically how manipulators use words in order to get their way, in order to win, to abuse, to make you change your perception and the way you look at things so that they can get the upper hand. I want to make sure here to say that words are powerful. You know, they say that sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. That is not true. Words are extremely powerful because words are forming consciousness and ideas that we hold about reality. It is based on what we think, and thoughts that are made out of words, that we formulate perceptions and how we look at things, how we look at ourselves. So narcissists are really good with using their words and they can appear brilliant, right? But when they talk, when they use their words, they use it to win, they use it to play games. There's not an ounce of vulnerability in it, even though they may seem like there is. So they use words the way marathoners would use running. So they're really good at it. They can use it and exhaust you in the process because of all the different techniques that they have in their back pockets. And exhaustion can make us very suggestible because when you're tired, when you're sleep deprived, when you've used your mental energy and focus in order to try to make sense of what they're saying to you, it's much easier to say things that make sense, and then you're going to take it as truth, take it as a belief system. So it can be very dangerous. So people who don't have conscience don't get tripped up as easily by words as we do, which is why they can, they have a way of working with them. And again, they've used it for so many years. They've done it for so many years. When you practice for 10, 20, 30 years, you get really good at something. Become an expert in a sense. But, being an expert, but using your quote-unquote gift in order to hurt other people, that's not cool. That's not okay. Whereas most of narcissistic targets, people who fall for their traps, are full of hot buttons and triggers. And so they know just what to say in order to make you confused, to make you second guess yourself, doubt yourself, and again, all in an effort. So you give up your position and you begin to look at the reality that the way that they want you to look at it. So there are several techniques that they use, and in this particular video, I wanted to focus on one that's called confusion or bewilderment manipulation. The aim is to get you kind of lost in a fog of words. It's almost like imagine a laser beam shooting through a cloud. For a moment, it's like you don't know what is going on. So you're going to grab onto the first thing that makes sense. And it's typically the thing that they say, or it's something that they keep repeating and repeating and repeating while they're confusing you and undermining your own version of reality, so that then they will kind of state what they tell you is the truth, what's their version of the truth, and eventually agree. It could be through exhaustion, it could be typically it's through exhaustion, or it could be because you're just ready to land on something that makes sense and end this verbal debacle. So confusion is absolutely a form of trance in that way. You can also think about it like when you are confused, we tend to, our focus really heightens and our brows come together, and it's like we're trying to focus. So the focus is there, which is necessary for trance induction, but you're not yet focusing on anything in particular until they give you something to focus on. And then you take that as truth because you're looking for relief from the confusion. I hope that makes sense. So one of the ways that that manipulators use confusion is they lead with the truth, with something that you can agree to. It's almost like it opens the gates, And then they're going to follow with something that's either not true, that's a complete lie, or it's a spin of the truth, or it's basically just their subjective opinion or a form of a command. Again, so that you accept the version of their version of what happened. So why do they do this? They do this for 3 reasons. Number 1, to conceal their true cruel intentions. Number 2 is to put you on the defensive so that you automatically are in a weaker position because you're expanding your energy to prove that you're right, so which gives you very little energy to then focus on your truth. And in order to change your perception, which I think is ultimately, in most of the cases, the result, the end result of spending a lot of time in the company of someone like that. So ultimately, it's to sabotage your sense of what's real and make you put your sense of self-worth into their hands. So now I'm going to give you 4 examples of how manipulators use confusion. And keep in mind, and I'm going to mention this as I go, is that it often is used in tandem with other manipulator tactics, such as projection. There's usually a ton of projection going on in confusion. Also things like vilifying the victim to blame you, to make you the bad person, and so on. So just a few examples I came up with, very kind of simple. For instance, you go to a grocery store and you do your shopping, and then you return and your partner accuses you of not getting them something that they like intentionally. And you're like, yes, I did go to the store, that's true. And yes, I didn't get X, Y, or Z. Yes, so again, that's the truth. But then they're going to tell you their spin and their opinion and say like, okay, well, that means you don't care about me. That means I'm not important to you. And this can escalate into an argument, which could then be followed by a silent treatment. And now you feel like you're the one to blame, like you're the bad person. So you're seeing here that there's lots of projection, blame shifting, guilt tripping, and all that. If they were to maintain that they told you to get something, even though you don't remember them saying anything, that could then take on also the form of gaslighting. And we'll get into gaslighting a little bit later down in a few videos down. So an example number 2, where we add projection and shaming here into this confusion mix, is when, for instance, you need help with something and your partner, a pathological partner, is going to kind of like drop everything or make it seem like they're dropping everything in order to help you and to be there for you. And so they'll help you, they'll assist you, of course, typically not really gleefully, because narcissists don't really know how to care for other people. But let's say they do that, and then they're going to tell you how, you made it all about you, there was no connection between you, it was, they gave you all, and now you're not appreciating. So notice there's a lot of projection going on here, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're giving you a hard time because they were put in a position where they needed to be there for someone else, and narcissists don't know how to do that. So, and of course they're shaming, like, oh, you made it all about you, it's all about you, it's always you. Again, it's not about you, you needed help in that moment, and that's what happens in partnerships. We are supposed to be there for each other during difficult times, but they're going to shift that, turn that around, and make you feel like you're the bad person for even asking for help. It's also a form of really toxic training. That is something that, most of us as targets will need to unlearn if we want to have a healthy relationship. And that is, teaches you not to ask for what you need or what you want. It makes us reinforce the old core wound belief system that we're not important, and that we need to put our needs and our wants on the back burner and on the bottom of the list. And it is impossible to create a successful, balanced life if we do that, because you got to remember that if you're not there for yourself and standing up for yourself, no one else really ever will. We have to be our first and foremost advocates. And even if you were to meet someone who were to tell you that they do love you and they care about you and so on, if you don't feel like that deep inside yourself, then you're not going to believe them. You'll question that, and you may end up sabotaging the relationship. So keep that in mind. The third way that manipulators, narcissists use confusion is through something called double entendre or innuendo. It's more of it's a bit of a more sophisticated form of verbal mastery, dexterity. And what it is that they're going to say something that has double meaning, or even sometimes can have more than a double meaning. The first meaning is straightforward, but the second one, almost like it contains a metaphor. And when you think about it, it's as if, they're sending you a message. And one example was, I was reading a quote by Mae West once, and she said something like, marriage is a fine institution. I am not ready for an institution. So, you can think about that in a very direct way, what she meant, or also look at, that could be a form of rejection, a form of denial. So that's something, again, that narcissists often do when they do future faking, or when they have made you believe that you do have future together and they have painted the picture. And then they're going to say something really clever in order to make you doubt that is ever the truth, that is ever the case, and make you feel like, oh, you kind of made it up. So now you are the one responsible for even thinking that, but they never really meant it. So it's like a clever way to wiggle themselves out of kind of an uncomfortable position, or a position in which they're unwilling to give. Again, they're great with words. They're going to give you so much by using their words and painting stories. But you have to always look at the actions behind those words, and generally they're very vacant and there's not much really there. That's how you can tell whether the person you're with is really worth your time and energy. And number four I have here for you is the idea of stringing you along, which is a big form of double entendre in a sense. And actually the whole cycle, up and down cycle of abuse, is also a form of double entendre. If you really look at it, it's a blown up version of that fractal. And what I mean here is that, you believe something, they're letting you know that that they love you, that they want you, that you're the greatest person ever, that happened to them. And then they're going to flip it completely upside down on its face, and now and let you know that it's actually exactly the opposite, and that you're the one who volunteered to be in this position and take all of this abuse. So it can be extremely destructive to pull yourself out of it, and difficult. It takes time. So, if you've been through it, and I think most of us have experienced something like this to a degree. But what I would say is that in the future, as you keep moving forward and healing yourself, if you encounter a situation where you're feeling confused, there is no shame in asking clarifying questions. What do you mean by this? Explain. I don't understand. Did you mean this or did you mean that? Get really, really, really explicit, because that's when the cockroaches scatter. This is like shining a light, in a dark corner. Asking questions is your friend. Inquiring is your friend. Truth is your friend. So you want to get to the truth. And I think that why so many of us, after we come out of these really destructive relationships, get so wrapped up in this whole, mental fog, and our friends are telling us, don't worry, forget about it, move on. But you can't quite move on because you need to kind of get to the bottom of it and understand. And, I want to commend you for wanting to understand. There is, of course, a fine line between killing yourself over this and obsessing to the point where your life loses its meaning. So I want to be careful you don't go to an extreme, but trust that in time, with enough distance and enough perspective, things will start really clicking into place and they will make sense. And so continue searching, continue seeking, continue questioning. And again, next time you encounter this in real time, ask questions. Okay, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.